On one of its entirely ordinary voyages, the ship Demeter takes on a routine cargo, unaware that soon the crew will become food for their own freight. In 1897, the Russian ship Demeter was chartered to transport 50 wooden crates from Romania to England. Sometime later, police from a coastal village reported that the ship had been found wrecked and abandoned, and in the remains of the vessel, the captain's logbook was discovered, containing a description of the ominous voyage. 4 weeks earlier, the Demeter had stopped in Bulgaria to collect the cargo and recruit additional crew members. News of this spread quickly among the unemployed sailors in Varna. Dr. Clemens also hears the announcement and rushes to the recruitment site. He tries to convince the captain's mate, Wojciech, that he would be a valuable member of the crew due to his medical skills and his astronomical education from Cambridge. However, Wojciech rejects him, as he needs strong sailors, not intellectuals. Wojciech selects 3 robust sailors, one of whom is a one-eyed but strong man who immediately begins loading the wooden crates delivered by the locals. The carriers insist on completing the loading before sunset and leave immediately after unloading the crates, handing a large sum of money to the mate and wishing the crew good luck. Wojciech is stunned by this arrangement, as he is usually the one who pays for cargo delivery. Time is pressing, and the loaders work diligently until the one-eyed man notices a dragon-shaped brand on one of the crates. His grip weakens, and the crate dangerously dangles over the dock where the captain's grandson Toby is playing. Clemens, sitting nearby, sees this, dashes to the child, and manages to snatch him away from the falling crate just in time. Wojciech, enraged, is ready to kill the one-eyed man, but the sailor screams about a devilish sign, wishes the crew salvation, and leaves the ship. Captain Elliot, impressed by Clemens's quick reflexes, invites him to join the crew. No one notices that the fallen crate has been damaged. Soon, the ship departs from the dock, and the carriers on shore make the sign of the cross as they watch it leave. Grateful for being saved, Toby immediately takes Clemens on a tour of the ship and introduces him to the crew, first showing him the dog named Huck. The boy demonstrates a secret knock meaning attention, which everyone on board knows, and introduces his crew, the animals he is responsible for caring for. The cook greets Clemens with questions about his religion and is pleased to hear that he is not a pagan and knows who Nicholas the Wonder Worker is. Meanwhile, the captain fills in the first page of the logbook. There are 9 people on board, 5 sailors, 2 mates, the cook, and the captain himself. The crew is in high spirits, the wind is favorable, and the payment, if the ship arrives on time, is expected to be substantial. The sailors therefore cheerfully sing and celebrate in anticipation of a good payout. In the evening, Captain Elliot informs Wojciech that he plans to retire and spend the rest of his life on shore, raising his grandson on an estate he has purchased in Ireland. He offers Wojciech the position of his successor as soon as the ship reaches London, as he considers him a good sailor. The crew celebrates on deck, unaware that deep in the hold, the damaged crate begins to move, as if someone is trying to escape from it. At night, while everyone is asleep, rats scurry away from the mysterious cargo. The next day at breakfast, the sailors discuss their plans for how they will spend the money. Clemens laments that money cannot buy an understanding of the world, as he wants to discover why good and evil exist and to try to eradicate the latter. At that moment, a worried Huck bursts into the galley. Toby and Clemens run below deck and find the animals in a state of great agitation. The doctor believes they simply sense the approach of a storm. However, at that moment, something clangs in the cargo hold, and Clemens sends the boy to inform the captain. He goes down into the hold himself, where he finds a broken crate and a pile of soil, within which he discovers the body of a young woman. He carries her upstairs, intending to provide aid. Wojciech protests, arguing that the woman could be contagious, but the doctor cannot leave her without help and transfuses her with some of his own blood, hoping to stop any potential infection. Wojciech remains hostile, as stowaways are always thrown overboard. It's the law. Clemens pleads for mercy, asking that the rescued woman be released at the first port. The captain orders a partition corner to be prepared for her, and Toby stays to watch over the woman while Clemens begins his shift. The Demeter enters the Aegean Sea when the second mate, Olgren, scanning the sea through a spyglass, suddenly glimpses a horrible, inhuman face. Shortly after, he finds maggots on the deck and then mysteriously disappears. Clemens searches for him, encountering a sailor who insists that someone just passed by. The following night, the cook discovers the torn-apart body of the dog near the storeroom. Rushing to the pens, he finds all the animals on the ship have been killed. The crew cannot understand who or why this was done. The woman is too weak, and Huck himself has fallen victim to the unknown assailant. Arguments flare up among the crew. Moreover, if they stop at the next port, they will lose the coveted bonus. Clemens reassures them that rabies can only be transmitted through a bite. Tensions continue to rise as the loss of the animals means a limited food supply, which does not help morale. Additionally, only a human could have opened the cages, and there are only two unaccounted-for individuals on board, Clemens and the unknown woman. Threatened with a knife, the doctor is forced to admit that, based on the evidence, no human could have physically done this. There must be some great evil on board. At this moment, the woman writhes in her sleep, hearing her name, Anna, called by some terrible voice. In the morning, fearing an outbreak of rabies, the crew throws the animals' corpses overboard. Toby mourns his beloved animals. He had promised the captain to do his job well, and now he feels guilty for what happened. Clemens comforts the boy, reminding him that things don't always go as promised in this world. Later, while working, Olgren confides in Clemens about what he saw the previous night. The man is convinced Clemens saw it too, but is hiding the truth. The doctor reassures him that he believes not in the supernatural, but in science and progress. The bad weather lasts for 3 days. Food supplies run low, the crew grows increasingly dissatisfied, and the doctor continues to transfuse blood into his patient every day. However, her condition remains unchanged. Toby overheard her muttering 2 words in her sleep, the name Anna and feed. Later, the cook reports that all the rats on the ship have disappeared, something that simply cannot happen, as a ship without rats defies nature. One night, one of the sailors goes on deck and discovers a hole in the hatch cover, as though something tried to escape. He inspects the deck, but is suddenly attacked by a monstrous creature. Clemens hears strange sounds, goes to investigate, but finds only the sailor's knife and traces of blood on the deck. In the morning, the captain inspects the area, but no one understands what could have happened. Wojciech suspects Clemens, but the doctor thoroughly disproves his accusations. He could not have killed a man without getting covered in blood himself, and besides, he was the one who reported the incident. Furthermore, all the animals had bite marks on their necks. At this moment, Anna finally regains consciousness and, stepping onto the deck, informs the crew that he is here, and he will kill anyone who remains on the ship. Clemens calms the woman, and later she reveals that she spent her whole life in a village near an ancient castle inhabited by a monster. She knows the village elders made a pact with the creature, offering sacrifices to protect everyone else. The monster's name is Dracula, and he is on this ship. This means none of them has a chance of survival. That night, a storm begins. A sailor on duty hears the secret knock and goes onto the deck, calling for Olgren. The mate draws his knife and searches the deck when the monstrous creature attacks the sailor. Olgren, seeing the creature, climbs the rigging, leaving the ship without control. Clemens, falling from his bed, rushes to the deck. With the help of the other awakened crew members, they manage to regain control of the ship. However, the search for the missing sailor yields nothing until a drop of blood falls on Toby from above. It turns out Olgren has lost consciousness, tangled in the ropes, with a bleeding wound on his face. The sailors lower the mate's body, but they are forced to tie him up, as the man behaves erratically. The captain's log notes that the ship is seemingly doomed to destruction, as the Bay of Biscay lies ahead, and now the crew is short by 2 men. Clemens examines Olgren. The man moves, makes sounds, but does not regain consciousness. No one understands why he was in the rigging or what has happened to his neck. The captain orders the sailors to arm themselves and search the ship. He asks Toby to lock himself in the cabin and then joins the others. However, the boy hears strange noises, steps into the corridor, and encounters the awakened Olgren. Toby breaks free, returns to the captain's cabin, and locks himself in. But the thing that was once a man smashes through the cabin door with its head. The crew on the deck hears the knocking, Toby's signal for help, and rushes below where the boy is desperately trying to hide from the monster breaking down the door. The men manage to subdue Olgren, but Dracula has already been in the cabin. While the crew tries to force the door open, the monster bites Toby. Clemens transfuses the captain's blood into his grandson, but the boy does not regain consciousness. 5 days remain until London, and the survivors try to do something, anything, to stay alive. They tie Olgren to the mast, afraid to leave him below deck. One day, Olgren mutters that he feels his master nearby. When the sun rises, he burns under its rays. The cook falls into religious fervor, blaming the dead for their lack of faith. Clemens reflects on the nature of Olgren's affliction. It must be some kind of infection, and it has likely already entered Toby's bloodstream. The boy is far weaker than Anna, and saving him will be far more difficult. The doctor is convinced that they need to find and study the monster to stand a chance of curing those bitten by it. Wojciech, however, is determined to destroy the creature. Anna supports him and volunteers to help, horrified at the thought of what Dracula could do if he reaches London, but no one knows how to kill the monster. That night, the cook steals a lifeboat and, reciting prayers, rows away from the ship. Meanwhile, Anna and Clemens search through the crates but find nothing but soil. One particular crate has intricate locks. Opening it, they discover the place where Dracula sleeps during the day. just as the monster catches up with the cook's lifeboat. That same night, Toby dies. In the morning, his body is wrapped in sailcloth for burial at sea. During the funeral, the captain thinks he sees the body move. He tears open the sailcloth, and Toby opens his lifeless eyes, attacking his grandfather. But then he bursts into flames in the sunlight, burning his grandfather as he is thrown into the ocean. Later, the captain is laid in his cabin. Clemens tries to rally Wojciech into action, but the mate insists that nothing can save them now. It is at this moment that the doctor reveals his lifelong struggle. Despite his exceptional education and brilliant mind, the color of his skin has always been a barrier to obtaining a respectable position. Now he wants to understand what drives Dracula so he can block all his paths and kill the creature. Anna inspires Clemens to realize that Dracula had calculated the number of people on the ship in advance, one for each night. Now they are exactly where he wants them, one day's journey from London. They must kill him now. The remaining crew members decide to destroy the ship and drown Dracula. Though Wojciech opposes the plan, the crew begins preparing the trap. When the captain learns of the plan to sink the ship, he takes up arms. But Anna reminds him of what Dracula does to people and gives him Toby's crucifix. The captain relents and agrees to the destruction of the Demeter. Night falls. Anna, acting as bait, stands on the deck while the others hide, armed and ready. She is sure Dracula will come for her, and then the others will know what to do. But they did not account for the vampire's ability to fly. Dracula manages to seize the last sailor. The fog obscures the monster, and he throws Wojciech from the rigging. The mate falls from a great height and now becomes the bait himself. He orders the others to escape while he smashes the hull, only to be caught in Dracula's grasp. Clemens finds his body, sees the breach in the ship's hull, and goes to find the captain. Elliot, meanwhile, fixes the wheel when he hears the monster's breath behind him. He thrusts Toby's crucifix forward, but it does not stop Dracula. Clemens finds the captain, whose last words are about his true faith. Clemens turns to Dracula, who seems to consider himself a god, but he lives in filth and feeds on human flesh. He is no god at all. At that moment, the monster emerges onto the deck and attacks the doctor, but Anna shoots Dracula in the back. The creature roars and takes flight, attacking the girl. Now Clemens rushes to her aid and strikes the monster with an axe. Anna runs to the lifeboat but sees Dracula strangling the doctor. She cuts the rope, and the falling mast pins Dracula to the deck. Anna and Clemens abandon the ship, believing Dracula to be doomed. However, the current carries the ship toward the shore, where it crashes against the rocks. Dracula throws off the mast and rises into the air. Floating on the ship's wreckage, Anna reveals to Clemens that she is turning into a vampire as a result of the infection, and the blood transfusions only delayed her transformation. Not wanting to become a monster, Anna swims away from Clemens and sacrifices herself to the sunlight. Clemens swims to shore alone. The newspapers report on the ghost ship with no survivors as Clemens finally arrives in London. One day in a tavern, he suddenly hears the secret knock of the Demeter and sees an aristocrat with Dracula's face and cane. The man vows to hunt Dracula down and kill him, seeking vengeance for all the lives destroyed by the monster.